I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. Would everybody please stand for a moment of silence? I'd like to remember Joanna Snyder's mom who passed away. Joanna was very instrumental in the tree lighting and did a lot of things for Bristol Borough, so let's remember her. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Gerard. Tony, you want to say why he's not here? Mr. Gerard, for the record, I'll put it in the record.
Did you want me to read the letter? Or?
Yeah, if you want.
I just have a brief letter from Dave for his missing the meeting tonight. From Dave Gerard, says, I apologize for missing tonight's important meeting. This afternoon I had to put my dog down. Anyone who has ever owned and loved a dog knows how upsetting this can be. That being said, I wanted my voice heard, and thanks to my friend Mr. Riccio, it will be. He goes on to say, I will not vote for any earned income tax and will not vote for a local service tax. Dave Gerard.
Mr. Riccio.
Present.
Mr. Devine. Mr. President.
Here.
Ms. Cullen texted me. She said she was ill. Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Mr. Petroci.
Present.
Mr. DiGiuseppe.
Here. Okay, before we get started, we have, is Bill here?
Yes.
I didn't even see you back there.
Good evening, members of council, mayor. I'll be brief because I know you have a very important budget meeting ahead of you. Bristol Borough has been on a roll, obviously, and we have a wonderful partnership between the Bristol Borough Council and Raising the Bar. Our mission is to keep that buzz alive, to keep all the positive things that we have going in the public eye and in the limelight. So we put together a promotional team. The team consists of myself. We're going to do promotional videos. I write the script. Casey Waldron, who we recruit, I'm going to introduce you to her in a moment, who has some television experience, and Casey is going to do the narrative for our videos. Craig Whitaker provides the studio, and his granddaughter, Cindy Brooks, films and edits the information. The name of their company is Bristol Business Services. Bristol Small Business Services, and they're out there for anybody that needs help. So the video is 60 seconds. The tagline is, come for the history, stay for the fun. It was a tagline that we got from Hershevik when we won the Small Business Revolution. We've kept that in our website, and this will be something that will be on the website as well. We're going to push it out in other ways as well. This particular 60-second video is geared to a younger audience, encouraging people to come here for three basic reasons, to have fun. And the three categories of fun are dining, entertainment, and the arts. There are other videos in the works. For example, we're going to do a shopping video, a retail video, and also we plan to shoot a short one at the tree lighting that we'll use for purposes of holiday visits. So let's watch this, and then I'd like you to be Casey. So Casey, if you'll hit that light switch.
Hi, I'm Casey Lee Waldron, and I'm very proud to welcome you to the new Bristol Borough, where we're raising the bar on fun. Bristol is the hottest emerging dining and entertainment center in Bucks County. And after spending the past 6 years in Dallas with an incredible dining and entertainment scene, it's been amazing to come back to Bristol and enjoy the Renaissance. Bristol is exploding with dining options, from a hip wood-fired pizza bar and the best bourbon Bellini in Bucks, from Mexican and margaritas on the river to authentic Italian and Indian, from pubs to traditional, from casual to farm-to-table boutique. And did I mention sushi? We have a spectacular live performance arts theater and a thriving arts community featuring a spectacular Center for the Arts with new exhibits opening each month. And all of this along a beautiful riverfront with stunning day docks and pier. So, what are you waiting for? Discover the new Bristol and see what all the buzz is about. Come for the history, stay for the fun. Head to visitbristolborough.com for more information, and we'll see you soon. For more information, and we'll see you soon.
Well, there you go. I'd like to bring Casey up to say hello. Casey?
Hi everyone. I'm a very proud Bristol born and raised girl. I spent the past 6 years in Texas. I won't say where in Texas, Dallas. But I'm very happy to be back and to be involved with raising the bar and to be helping out and getting more involved in town in any way I can. So thank you so much for this opportunity and thank you for doing such a great job for Bristol.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. She's obviously a very talented young lady. She's also the daughter of Cricket and Sandy Waldron, and George's nephew, so we're happy to have her back. And she lowers the average age of raising the bar by about 20 years. So that's good, too. As for the tree lighting, Ralph, I assume you're going to be talking about it tonight?
You can.
Okay. Well, the tree lighting, the program will begin at 6:30. The tree will be lit at 7 o'clock. There's two major changes that we want to make sure the public's aware of so we have a smooth evening. First of all, we've moved the program and the festivities of the tree lighting to the Mill Street side of the tree rather than the Riverside. That's something that a lot of people were asking that we do, and so we've done that. And so the 100 block of Radcliffe and Mill are going to be closed, and the people will congregate as they always do, and we're going to have a great time. The second part that's changed slightly is that we've got a lot, not complaints, but concerns. The line to see Santa Claus is very long, and some of those kids were in line for 2 hours. It is cold. One year it rained, it was cold, Santa's cold, kids are crying, so we moved it to the Center for the Arts. Santa's going to be at the back of the center, inside the Center of the Arts, and there's a long, narrow hallway there that can accommodate at least 100 people in line. So we're going to get the kids out of the cold, in line to see Santa. They're then going to exit the back door of the Center for the Arts and go down to the parking lot where there will be a kiddie train waiting for them that Michael Gorman's setting up, and Train Pops Attic is one of the primary sponsors of that. And the kiddie train will give kids a ride, and then they'll be able to come back up on Mill Street and be finished.
Bill, 1 second.
Yes.
Casey, can you turn them lights on, please? Yeah, Bill.
Well, that's all I wanted to say about that. Just those two big changes. We're on the Mill Street side if you want to get the best shot, the best view, and the other is that Santa Claus will be in the Center for the Arts. The doors will open to the Center for the Arts at 7:15, so you can see the tree lighting, then walk your children down there, get in line, and enjoy Santa Claus. Any questions about that? One last thing. I know you're busy tonight, so I'm just going to drop this, and then we'll call and try to make an arrangement. We've been talking about doing a mural program in town for a long time, and I know there's apprehensions about that, and it's also something that every cool town in America is doing. So what we'd like to do is try to talk to you about having a pilot project, identifying 2 areas where we'd like to do a mural. The mural would be done exclusively by professional artists. I know sometimes people say, why don't we let the kids do it? Kids can do murals at the schools. That would be a great idea. But this is what we're proposing is murals done by professional artists from the Center for the Arts. The Center for the Arts can carry the ball, and we can, in the long term, sit down and talk about the parameters of how we would do that and how you'd like to maybe pass an ordinance or whatever you'd like to do. But we would at least like to have the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. All right, so we'll contact you next week.
I think everybody's concern was, Bill, that who's going to maintain it after it's up?
Right. We'll brainstorm all those concerns, and we'll try to address all of them and see how we look. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too.
There's extra cards here for the tree light. I'm going to leave them. I'll leave them on that desk if you want to distribute to any friends or whatever from that.
So everybody knows that the tree's going to light around 7:10,
Right.
7:15 at the latest.
Right.
And the next day is the parade, so everybody understands the parade starts at 1 o'clock. Rain, I talked to Ellen, and she said if it rains, there is a rain date Sunday. It will be the same time on Sunday. So hopefully there's no rain and they get the parade in, but they are calling for rain on Sunday. But Saturday at 1 p.m. the parade will start down Farragut, down Pond, down the Mill, and then down Mill Street. Okay, so we covered all that. Public participation. Anybody on this side of the room would like to speak on anything, go to the podium and state your name and address. Anyone on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? That ends public participation.
Can I say one thing before we get started? I just also wanted to give my condolences to Judy Craven. Her husband Dave passed away a couple weeks ago, and he was big with the fire companies and everything, and they're really good constituents of mine. So I just want to send out my condolences to the Craven family.
Okay,
Thank you.
before we get into the budget, we have a couple agenda items that we got to add to this agenda to be voted on this evening. One is we have to fill the seat of deceased member Anthony Musi, who passed away on the Sewer Authority. We should have filled that seat a few months ago. Out of respect for him and the family, we just thought it'd be better to wait a little bit. But our solicitor's telling us that it has to be filled tonight. The other thing is, Mr. Dillon and Angie met with a new insurance broker that they feel more comfortable with, and they feel that the information they give him and this company, they get back to us immediately and respond in a quick response. So Mr. Pezza has two items to be voted on. So do we got to suspend the rules, or we, pardon me?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
So, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to make our broker of record for medical insurance to be My Benefit Advisor, with the individual Neil Pollock running the brokerage.
Second by Mr. Rodriguez. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to get a young man involved who I've known my entire life to get involved in the borough, who has expressed an interest to be involved in the borough, who's got a large working knowledge of, a lot of things, working with people, working with their hands, understanding what contractors do, understanding the ins and outs of this kind of business with the Sewer Authority. So I would like to nominate Vince Quattrochi to be on the Sewer Authority.
Second by Mr. Rodriguez. Questions or comments? You want to do a roll call vote? It's easier.
Okay. Mr. Gerard is absent. Mr. Ricchio.
Yes.
Mr. Devine is absent. Mr. Pezza.
Yes.
Ms. Cullen is absent. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Catroci.
I abstain.
Mr. Di Giuseppe.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and 1 abstention.
So it's great to see young, like Greg said, get some younger people involved in this. Okay.
Plus, we're not that young anymore.
All right. So just to talk a little bit about the budget, we had several meetings regarding this budget, and I brought different council members in to sit in at various times to go over this budget. And there was a deficit that we kept cutting into, and Angie kept working new numbers, and we got it down to a manageable, balanced budget. And I don't know if anybody went through the budget to look at it and have any questions on it. But as far as the EIT and the LST tax, that, when Jim advertises that tax every year, he has to do that in case we can't balance the budget. And I don't think anybody sitting here, I know Mr. Ricchio read a letter from Mr. Gerard that he wouldn't vote for it. I don't think anybody sitting here would vote for it either unless we definitely had to vote for something that made this, keep the town moving. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we're able to get another year in and have this budget balanced. So do you want to go through each?
Mr. Di Giuseppe, can I just say something on what you just said? While I completely agree, I don't think anyone wants to or is interested in adopting either one of these taxes. I do just think it's important for the public to know what they are. We've talked about them a couple of times over the last couple of years, especially the earned income tax, because one thing I just think it's important to know is that many of us already do pay. And I just think that's something that, for just the purpose of people having all the knowledge that they need on it, many of us who work in a town that already collects it, already pay it. And many of us don't, so I want to make sure that's clear as well. And I'm not saying this in support of it at all. I would certainly rather not adopt it. I just would like people to understand what the actual tax is, meaning that, I work in Lower Moreland Township, they collect it, so they take all of my earned income tax. If we adopted it, half of what I'm already paying would come here. And that is true for a lot of people. So for some people, it would be a tax, without a doubt, a new tax. For others, it would not be. It would be a moving of money from one municipality to our own. So I just think that's something that bears understanding.
I'm glad you said that, because we have statistics on how much money we're losing by not passing this tax. Jim, do you have any of them numbers, or Angie?
In 2018, 618 residents of the borough paid $132,707.40 in earned income taxes to other areas.
100 and what?
$132,707. 618 borough residents.
So $132,000 of borough residents' money is going to help other boroughs and townships. So when you really think about it, are we really doing an injustice not to put this tax in?
And I guess the only reason I'm even bringing it up in this context is to say that if we can make this budget work, I don't know any one of us that would say,
Right.
let's raise your
But
taxes
you are
instead.
right that our money's going to help other.
And it just
other
seems
areas.
like every year that goes by, we have this conversation always, and we make it work. But at some point in time, whether it's us or another council down the road, something's going to give.
And there's only a few townships or boroughs that aren't
Right.
collecting it.
Out of the 56 municipalities in the county, there's only, I believe, 4 that do not collect it. Last year, Ben Salem, which gets over $12 million in casino money, went to the earned income tax. But right now, Lower Makefield does not have an earned income tax. And I can tell you all the reasons why they don't have that, because of their assessed valuation being so high and their real estate transfer tax being almost $2 million a year. And Falls Township, because they had the landfill, and Tullytown, because they had the landfill. All the other municipalities, have an earned income tax. So, except Morrisville. And Morrisville, if you notice, they're struggling also. I think they're cutting their 10-person police department to at least 9, if not lower. They were actually even talking about cutting it to 5 full-time officers, Morrisville. And their population, compared to our population, is almost 10% deviation, I would say, less in Morrisville. So,
Tony?
That number that you put out there, is that reflective of 1% or 0.5%? Because I know if we get is the school currently getting any of it or no? So we could go for the 1%, but then they have the option to go for half of that, correct?
Right.
no, I don't think that's true anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's correct
No?
anymore.
I thought they were able to come in and take 0.5%.
I thought so too.
But if you make it 0.5%, then they can't get half of the half.
Confirm that for an email tomorrow to everybody.
Angie, you'll confirm that? All right, the other tax that Jim advertised, and people, I guess a lot of people understand it as a head tax. If you work in Bristol, you pay $10 to work here. So all the people that are in Lennox, all the people that are going to be in the new book company, all the people that are in Keystone Lighting, all these people that work in town, all the teachers that come in town that don't live here. If we raise that to $52, right? Or 50, what can we go to, 52? It's an additional $42 a year, which would generate how much money?
108,000 to 114,000. Right now, that $10 that you mentioned, half of that goes to the school district.
Right, so we get 5.
Yes.
And that 108 and 114 is expressive of what we would still split, or that's all?
That would be the boroughs. You know, and that's for local service tax, and that's supposed to go to pay for the police and ambulance services for those that work in your community.
Gotcha.
Now, there's also a provision in there where if you make under a certain amount of money, so
Right.
people that are only making maybe $10,000 or $12,000 a year are not affected by that tax. So you're not hurting anybody that's not making a lot of money. So it's two, like Greg said, eventually, these two taxes are going to be passed, whether it's by this council or somebody else. Eventually, you're going to have to increase them unless interest rates change and you start getting more interest on your money. And I don't even know if that's going to be enough. We also want you to know that everybody's saying, well, they're building all these homes on the river and they're building homes. And new construction home on the river with a sale price, say, of $325,000, Bill, the most you're going to collect in taxes is like $1,800, $1,900 out of that home. So the school will collect about $6,000 out of that house. We'll collect maybe, let's use round numbers. If we get 2, they get $6,600 out of the taxes. So it helps the school district, helps us a little bit, but, you know, you got 100 and some homes aren't going to be built for a few years. But you also got to remember the permit fees that are in our budget are probably going to decrease because once them homes are built, you're not going to be doing the amount of permits that you're doing. So there's a whole, I mean, you really need to understand this budget and understand everything that's going on before you could just pick out an item and say, well, this, you should cut this, or you should add this. You really need to know what moving parts make this work. So just to go through it, I mean, we could start with, you know, page 1 of 2 on debt service. If anybody has any questions on debt service, you know, we're here to answer them.
I'd say if they don't have any questions, I mean, I think a couple of them called and asked about it, and we've answered them, so. Let's see what we want to do.
So does anybody have any questions on debt service?
No.
The next page is your fire fund. More of a transfer. So, does anyone have any questions on that?
I just want to, again, what's identified as the Cancer Act Fund, that's going up now to 40,000. How did we get, they actually, the rates are April to April, so it's not a January to January, so you won't know what the rate really is until April.
I'm getting it right from Delaware Valley.
So, and I don't understand that because Delaware Valley doesn't have anything to do with the fire companies.
Who does?
You only can put it, you have a number?
Delaware, well, I don't, no, I won't, I mean, I don't have a number right now, but Delaware Valley, the reason that we're paying $40,000 a year now is because Delaware Valley dropped all the fire companies. So I don't know what part they would play in helping to identify what the rate is.
Who's handling it now?
Directly with the state.
And this is our estimate, and from the state, and we won't pay the state a dime more than we have to. And Delaware Valley workers' compensation fund is helping us, guide us, because, they felt that they could not try to self-insure or for the municipalities to insure such a
Right.
very costly benefit. And we don't want to have to go into that at the moment, do we?
Well, at some point in time during the year, I think council should engage the legislators, because the information is out there, is that throughout the state, whatever the state premiums are collected, the actual claims are a lot less, and so that money just then gets put in the general fund for the state. So the rates keep going up, but there's no long-term benefit to fire companies. But that's a discussion for another day.
Well, I mean, it's just like our health insurance. We don't get our premium until February or March. So you basically got to just use numbers that you feel comfortable with. Is it going to go up or is it going to go down? It's like Jim said, it's a guide to try to get you, to.
I mean, the rates doubled since 2014.
Went from what?
Since when?
2014. We went from 21,000 now to 40,000. I just wanted to ask that question.
All right.
Herb, is the
We're
fund paying
paying.
out less? Is that what they're paying
There was
out
some
less
recent-
claims?
There were some recent articles in the newspaper about how much is collected through the premiums, and then how much has actually been paid out, and the payout for claims has been significantly less, but they said they don't take that money and set up like a contingency fund for later claims. They just roll that money back into the state.
Would be in that fund.
That was my only question for that. Thank you.
I'm saying to Jim, I'm sure the taxpayers wouldn't want to pay $40,000 if they don't have to. All right, the question I have on this fund,
General, you're on the general?
on the fire,
Fire.
on the fire fund is, and I'm not going to get into recognizing 5 companies or 4 companies.
I was going to bring that up.
I just have a legal question. Does the borough have the right to fund with money to each company? Can it be different funding?
I don't believe under the ordinances that you're obligated to fund all of them, if you don't want to. Okay. You can fund a couple of them, you can fund one.
Can you give one more than the other, or that's not?
I'll have to look at that. I'm not sure you can.
Coming?
I don't know if you want to, but I don't believe there's an obligation that you fund everybody.
Can you look at the legal end of funding these fire companies? And what I would like to do is, when do you guys get your money?
May, I believe.
Come in after tax season.
What
I
I
have
would
something
like,
to say on that, too.
pardon me?
I have something to say when you're done.
When we're going to pass this budget in December, come January, February, I'd like to sit down with the mayor and all the chiefs and whoever the players are in the 5 companies and meet with them. We don't need to do it here, but I think this meeting is necessary that we get together and we get this resolved. Because I'm getting a lot of people that don't think it's right, I think we need to have a serious conversation about this and figure out how we're going to fund, whether it's 5 companies or 4 companies, maybe some companies get more, some companies get less, legally if we can do that, or we really got to sit down and get this resolved once and for all.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things I was going to bring up under our budget. There's been some discussion. This council has went through, I think, at least 2 iterations where previous mayors have brought this up, and they didn't do their homework. If you remember correctly, before I went out of office the last time, you and I were working along with the 4 fire companies, just having the state audit had been done. And we were working along to get to either 4 companies or 5 companies. Under the ordinance, the borough has the authority to recognize whatever fire companies as being part of the overall Bristol Borough Fire Department.
Right.
Under the ordinance, it does not clearly or unclearly tell you who you can give the money to or not. That's clearly something that council has the decision-making ability, how much. But it all comes down to within the ordinance. And that was, I've talked to Chief Slack, talked to Deputy Chief Goslin. I was going to bring up that we have some information. When the new year came around, we'd like to sit down with just what you said. We were going to start with the presidents and the fire chiefs. But I was going to make a recommendation tonight that you keep in mind when we're doing the budget that sometime next year, and I know we normally ask the companies not to take the money before May, so we get tax dollars and so forth. And hopefully sometime during this year, coming up 2019, we can resolve this, because you're going to have to change the ordinance. I have some proposed ordinance changes to be made. But my one point I'd like to make is that we definitely have 4 stations in town, and that's the way I look at it. The operating dollars that comes from the taxpayers goes to the operation of those stations. You can have 5 companies in a station, but it's one station. So that's one of the things I want to talk to them about. But I know in the past that the one company that opposes it has always said nobody's talked to them before we've done anything. I think we're taking the right approach by saying, we're going to sit down, we're going to meet, we're going to talk about that.
And I'm not sitting here saying we're going to take their funding, not take their funding. I just think that we need to sit down and hash this out and make it work where everybody's happy. And it's got to be done, before May.
This is not going to affect our budget now.
No.
The monies collected are going to,
Be clear.
even
How we
next
distribute
year,
it.
if they distribute it different, it's still going to be,
It's how we
what we
distribute
collect, the borough doesn't put any of that in the general
Right.
fund, so that's all going to the fire companies.
Right.
It's just, and we'd like everybody to agree it's always become an issue in the past, so hopefully we can resolve it this year.
I think from a historical standpoint, I think there was some time, I want to say maybe back during in the 40s or 50s, Chief Slack would know. I think the council at the time did not recognize one or more companies for some reason. Is that correct? They only paid the
Actually,
one?
from 1927 to 1948,
Actually, 1943,
Great.
they recognized all of the companies in town at that time because of the war, and there was a manpower shortage.
All I was trying to do is not really discuss this. It's
Okay, I
just-
agree, yeah. I agree with you.
Trying
Now,
to
2019
let
will be a
everybody
good time.
know that it's something that needs to be discussed. So, does anybody else have any questions on the fire fund?
No.
All right, let's skip through the general fund and go back to that. Okay, let's go to recreation. So, if you guys look through the recreation, but I don't know if you have anything marked up ahead of time, or everybody had these budgets, or anything you want to talk about or discuss? Talking about the budget.
I'm good.
And because something's in here, doesn't mean it automatically gets funded. So if you see something there, well, why are we funding? It's a decision we have to make down the road if you're going to fund a program or not fund the program. So everybody's okay with that? The rescue squad is just another tax that comes into the borough and gets,
I wanted to, on the rescue squad budget, previously in the fire department budget, there was a municipal liability premium that used to be collected from the fire tax. but the borough found out that the fire companies have their own liability insurance, and so for the borough to purchase liability insurance was a duplication. And the same thing, actually, I talked to the rescue squad people, the same thing applies to them. They do have their own liability insurance, and so what the borough is purchasing in liability insurance is actually, as I understand it, a duplication.
So we don't need to spend $6,000. Want to look into that?
Let us check, get confirmation with the insurance
Right.
company, and we're going to have to have proof of insurance from the rescue squad amongst other things. We're just not going to take it all.
No, I'm saying if, we're leaving it in the budget when we pass it. It just may be something down the road that we don't have to spend money for. Before that policy renews, we should have some answers. Any other questions on rescue squad? So street lighting is another tax that comes in. Jim, the street light expense, that's PICO, right?
For the electrical expense,
Right.
yes.
$120,000.
Estimated cost, yes.
That's probably why a lot of towns don't have street lights.
Well, that's just energized, and the borough,
Maintaining them.
It maintains and fixes them, and
Right. Does anybody have any questions on the street? If somebody in the public has a question on something, I'm willing to answer it. Just raise your hand.
We're good.
Okay.
Are we capped at these amounts? Are we capped? I know it's a separate tax.
no, not for electrical street lighting.
So if we historically have run a deficit on this,
But when you combine them all together, we're capped out, right?
We're capped out on the general fund millage.
Gotcha.
It's Angie.
Just looking for the list of millages for all the different funds. Put it in this year. I mean, that's what's estimated to be charged for each of them. But what does the state allow you to tax?
Oh, okay.
We'll put for next year, I'll ask Angie to put the maximum millage for each of these, so you know what the millage limitations are.
thank you.
So your special road tax, if you look at it,
What's the maximum allowed?
so if you look under the special road tax and you look under handicap ramps, we've been spending so much money a year for ADA ramps. This year, we're proposing to spend $227,964, say $228,000, because we have a grant of
Two grants from the county for $227,000.
So we got
That's our match amount, right?
Pardon me?
That's our matching amount for the grant?
Matching
No,
it?
we're spending it
No.
all.
There's no match on that.
Oh, there's no, not to match any of it?
No.
Just got to spend it all.
Spend
What,
it.
even it's 220?
About that, yeah.
So if they're giving us 220, but we're putting about 7,000 to 8,000 in.
Now, they don't cover any soft costs, right?
No, they do pay the engineering.
Oh, they do? Okay.
They do it, but they pay a percentage of the engineering.
So
So you got
hopefully,
your county grant of 227,000 and the handicap ramps of a 227,000 for the program.
That's right.
We also have a separate fund where we try to spend about $25,000 to $35,000 a year for additional curb handicap ramps, yes.
And there's nothing that we do in the general fund, I'm assuming, that could be done under this
No,
grant?
there's no money in the general fund to do anything except, I mean, your police, your revenue for taxes in your general fund isn't enough to pay for your police department.
Right.
So that's how tight things
Right.
are.
And most of the time, we do our handicap ramps in-house, right? Or all the time?
We try to go out to bid each year. We've done Wilson Avenue, I think we only have a couple more curb cuts on Wilson Avenue, and then that area will be completed.
Okay, thank you.
okay? So your capital improvements,
I'm sorry, can I go back one? I'm sure it's something I'm just not quite understanding.
roads?
Yeah, back to the special roads. So, we are transferring 143,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Proposed to transfer 143,000 to the general fund.
To pay for the public works expenses that are within the general fund. Yes.
Right, okay, so that's what I'm saying, okay, so that extra, not extra, but the 105 surplus in that account cannot be used for more things in the general fund, such as?
No, I think you probably could use, that, I mean, that's the estimated balance come the end of the year.
Sure.
And we probably could use it for some additional public works, expenses.
Yeah.
But right now, I think that for the most part, they are covered.
Okay. That was my only question, sorry.
Does anybody have any questions on the capital improvement side? Got our investments.
The advisor is projecting 562,000 in interest earnings, which is a significant increase over the last few years. Gets us back to where the investment income was, I would say, back in 2010, 2011. So it's up to 562,000. So that's one of the reasons why possibly you will not have to do a tax increase next year with the assumption that you fund a 12-man police department and keep the pension contributions the same in 2019 as they are for 2018.
Does anybody have any other questions on this investment? fuels. Money that we get from the state.
Which we pay for the part of the bond issue that's associated with the road program that we did this 2010, something like that.
I think that might be one of the best things we ever did was pave all the roads, because there was no way to get them done, road by road by road. It would have been a disaster, but everybody notices our guys are out there trying to fill holes. Pond Street was one of the first roads in Farragut Avenue, and that road is always going to give you problems. It's because there's a cement base under it, so I'm sure that, some roads are going to be coming up that need to be repaved, so we're going to have to look into how that's going to get funded over the next couple of years. Anybody else have any questions on the state liquid fuel money? And then the refuse is our trash.
How old is our street sweeper?
10 years, maybe. So it's getting to the end of the life.
Yes. Did we get a grant? I don't remember. To help us with the street sweeper when we bought it? No?
We just spent about $8,000-9,000 worth on parts, new parts, and speaking with George, we both feel we should be able to get another couple years out of it.
Okay.
Because we're doing major, repairs to it. So when you look at it from the outside, it looks like it's brand new. But,
Yeah, it does. It's been down for a little bit. I was just wondering.
6 months or so.
How much is a new one?
I think you're looking at the area of 250,000 or so.
I guess we're
And that's another thing to look at, is it, we bring a company in, but the companies usually aren't that efficient. When they come in, with our own sweeper, we clean up.
I thought one of the
for
best
events and
ideas was
stuff
to
like
get
that.
our own.
That probably was the best thing to do, and we really didn't have any problems with it until this year and a little bit last year. So,
Again, I think a lot of the problems are just from us. I think people don't realize that they have to clean up the leaves, they have to sweep up a little bit. They think the street sweeper's supposed to clean the streets, and that's it. So, it takes the community to help too. They should be happy.
anybody have any questions? Let's go to the general fund, so everybody knows the general fund is all the salaries, police departments, everything that goes on in the borough. So all them funds that we just went through, at the end of them, you'll see transferred to general fund. So by law, you collect the street lighting tax, liquid fuel tax, whatever recreation, everything then gets transferred to a general fund and gets paid out of one checkbook. So if you start in the beginning, it starts with all your income, your real estate tax, permits, street permits, miscellaneous permits, fire inspection permits, rental registrations, motor vehicle violations and fines. So if you look at the front page, page 1 of 8, you start seeing all your income that's coming into the borough. And then you get the middle of page 2, you see miscellaneous revenue, reimbursement, tax, reimbursement from crossing guards, reimbursement from Grundy Arena, parking meter collections. And then the one under that is transfers. So transfer from street lighting, from recreation, from sewer, from refuse, from debt service. Just so everybody can follow how this money, when you see it in one budget, how it comes back to the general fund. You go to page 3 and you start your expenses. You notice how much money we make, it's like astronomical. So you got, your mayor, your council, your administration, tax collector, auditing and legal engineering. So at the end of page 3, I'm going to stop there and see if anybody has questions on the first 3 pages, whether it's here or in the public.
Meters, is there like something where you have to upgrade them after so many years?
Jim and George met with a couple people to look at them. We talked first about a kiosk. And what you would do is you would put one at each block in Mill Street and one on Market. And you would put your credit card in, get your slip, but then we're thinking the elderly people then have to get this slip, bring it back to their car, put it in the window so the meter person can see it. The other options are, everybody been in different shore points and all, every spot is numbered. So when you go to the kiosk, you put in spot number 22, and let's say you pay for 20 minutes. Well, you pull out in 5 minutes, and somebody pulls in spot 22. Right now, the meter shows X amount of minutes left on it. With the kiosk, you got to go back in and put your money in again. So they say it increases revenue by 20 to 30%. So, but kiosk machines, I think there were like 10 to 12,000 each.
There's
So-
no funding for that either?
Need to look into it. But I think our meters need to be upgraded no matter what, to at least take a credit card, because a lot of people want to put a credit card in, and dealing with the change, we got a machine that the meter goes in and you turn it and it drops into a lock box, and then the box gets brought to the borough, correct, Angie? And then all that change got to be counted, which is tying up.
Right, and then some of them are in bad shape because you go to put money in them and
They don't work.
they don't work.
Well, they try to maintain them the best they can, but kids squirt, kids or whoever knows who, they squirt glue in them. There's so much vandalism on them meters. But there's so much new technology out there today. It's something that I think we need to look into.
I agree.
Is the kiosk the way to go? They're not easy to use. Maybe a lot of elderly people, including myself, I couldn't figure it out in Philly, and I couldn't figure it out when I was in Asbury Park one night. Finally, somebody came up and, they knew how to.
The one with numbers all over Florida, that's all they use. You just
Right.
punch in the number and
Punch
put
in
your
the number.
credit card in, and
Yeah.
Something to look
So it's
into.
something that I think, these are things that we need to start looking at, and, people are saying even the parking lot could be
Metered.
metered down at the parking lot. Maybe that's an option, I don't know, but I think we need to get through this budget and get through the holidays, and then,
Yes.
starting January, February, March, start looking how we're going to improve and do things going into the summer, spring and summer.
We're charging 25 cents for like a half hour?
Yes.
I think it's 20 minutes now.
Yeah, I think it's 20
I think
minutes.
it's 20 minutes.
But I do see the
No?
problem. Sometimes they're not
Half hour?
working. Is it a half
Half
hour?
an hour.
I think it's a half hour.
half an
So
hour.
it's 50 cents an hour.
It's whatever the meter wants to do, because sometimes.
And you can't park anywhere for 50. And it isn't that we want the money, because if you look at the salary that we pay and the income coming in and things like that, we're not doing it to make money. The reason we're doing it is because about 10 years ago, the store owners were saying they couldn't get customers into their store because people were just parking there and leaving the car there for, 2-3 days, and it wasn't fair to them. So they really requested that we hire a meter maid, and at that time, we did. But,
And she gets the beauty.
to make that investment into kiosks is an investment, but it may be the way to go.
Obviously, something we can just do an analysis on to determine if it's something.
We met with a couple companies. They came out, I think one was from Pittsburgh, wasn't it, Jim?
The company sold the meters to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is one of the ones that really makes in the money, Pittsburgh.
To be done. improve
And then
the
we
job.
had a company come out that did a couple shore areas. And, you're talking high volume, so you need good machines that are taking that volume. And the ones in Philly, I don't think are that great. I think they're pretty difficult to use.
Do our meters require like batteries or they're battery operated? Is there any
Solar?
well, yeah, I'm just saying maybe grants for solar power or.
They have them solar with battery backup.
Right. There's a lot of people, I'm just saying, that are willing to kind of help municipalities like ours make that transition. Maybe we can look to see if there's any incentives for the kind of power that they have even.
A lot of townships also sell like a pass, like you use for the train. What do you call them? You come here, you fund the pass, let's say
Your
you
citizen pass?
I ride the train.
It's like
for
a credit
85
card.
cents.
You go, because a credit card sometimes won't take 25 cents. So there's got to be a minimum charge. So therefore, you fund your ticket here, your credit card here, and you just, when it runs out, you come back and refund it. So there's a lot of different programs out there. So we'll bring some people in and maybe sit down and talk to them. So on the first 3 pages, any questions? All right, so we're getting into expenses. Go to page 4.
Do we think we'll get another dog?
No,
A police dog? No?
not unless council is going to do it. Police department's not planning on it.
Okay, I was just curious.
So if you're looking at the budget, you see proposed 2019 budget and 2019 on the end. The reason for that is we base this budget on 12 full-time officers or 14 full-time officers. And you could see it's a big difference. For full-time, it's $1,368,470 or $1,200,565. And if you look at the pension, let me find it.
No, it's down
Yeah.
there. 410-160.
7 and 3.
It's
Okay.
512.
So the police pension fund went up to $512,498. So last year, we spent $450,703. So we're putting in the $450,703, not the $512,498. But if you look back in 14, it was $277,000. So it basically more than doubled. And it's been going up every year.
So here's a question that I have.
Increase in salaries, that's why it's a big difference, I think.
Last year's budget is budgeted for 12 police officers, right? But we have 14.
We had 12. We had 2 people out on disability.
Right. I'm
Which
saying
were
for all,
covered under workman's comp.
effectively, for our purposes insofar as what we're paying, we have 14, right? And so the 2 budgets proposes, one fully funded 14, one 12 officers, 8 part-timers, right? Those are the 2 proposals.
Well, the chief and the mayor don't use the number of part-timers. What the chief wanted to do, and Joe, they want to use hours.
Okay.
So what they're saying is they're basing this on, what was the hours?
Well, it
Joe?
was 7,200, but I wasn't here today. I see a note from the chief. He wanted to bump that up to 9,280. I don't know if he made it.
Oh, we're never going to be able to do that.
I understand that.
7,000. We didn't.
Hours?
I think he
Yeah,
said
that comes out to
7,000 now.
4.6 part-timers.
Right.
That's 7,200 or so.
Whether he uses one guy more than the other, or that's the mayor and the chief's decision.
But if we are to approve it with 12, someone's going to get laid off, is that right?
We don't know.
That'll be up to
Us.
us. But so
What we
theoretically,
do, we approve
it.
it with the 12.
Right.
Understanding there's 14.
Right.
And we're going to have to look at the financial picture come the first quarter of next year.
Right.
And see how we're making out. But we also have a couple issues that are,
Yeah.
we
I know.
can't discuss publicly
Yes.
that we need to figure out. I mean,
Now, also in that 14, that includes the chief and the detective.
Right. But in that 12 also.
Yeah. It just shows the number of patrol officers.
All right, so Jim said it's okay to say a couple things. We did have people out on disability, so now one cop came back. The other cop that just came back is costing us probably over $100,000 a year, but he's in the building, but not working on the street. So right now, we have a very expensive clerk downstairs, which was on workman's comp, but now workman's comp put him back to work, but he's still not able to. So that's up in the air. We don't know where that's going. Hopefully, we see him back on the street. If not, I mean, it's going to come to a head eventually. So that's why our budget went from where we thought it would be, and now it's going to be over budget. So the entire police budget, when you get done, is going to be $3.3 million for 14 police officers. Right?
The proposed budget.
And
Pardon me?
5 part-timers.
And 7,000 hours of part-timers. So I met with the chief and the mayor. I mean, you know, they want more cops, and we all want more cops. It's just that we're barely struggling to make this payroll. I mean, you're talking serious money here. I mean, like Jim said, this 3.3 million is more than all the taxes that we collect in the borough. And look, they deserve every dime they get. I'm not sitting here saying they don't deserve it. They put their life on the line every day. They don't know if they're going home to their family. But again, it's just, you know, with pension funds going up and different things. So we need to work off the last column. Instead of the 3.3, it would be $3 million budget.
The last column is the 12.
The last column is the 12.
And that one gets us to a balanced.
Right. Balanced budget. So the budget's off, not just because of the police, but that's what makes us balance the budget. And the pension fund. Not funding the pension funds, funding the same way we did in 18.
Bill, are there any legalities involved in, let's say we fund 12 with the language full-time officers, but we do, you know, our interest comes in at a better rate. We get more money than we thought we would. Are we held to that 12 full-time standard because it's in the budget that way?
The budget's a guide.
Right.
So you're saying, listen, if you continue paying 14 and everything else stays the same, you're going to be over budget. So you're budgeting 12. Like Ralph said, the first quarter comes in, other things look good, you may say, okay, we still can afford the 14.
So this isn't forcing us to lay someone off is what I'm getting at.
No.
Okay.
It's not forcing you to do anything. All we're saying is to balance the budget,
Yeah, okay.
you have to show a 12-man police department, not a 14-man police department. And if we have to make some drastic cuts down the road, we got to make them.
Right.
So, we get through, like I said, January, February, March, we'll have the ending numbers of 18, which you'll probably have by then, right, Angie? By February. So, because there's still projections in the 18 budget, because we still have November and December's bills
Right.
that have to come in, and revenue could, has to come in.
Ralph? Yeah, just from the police department standpoint, bottom line is that whatever the council decides to give us, that's what we have to work with. I mean, there's nothing that we can do about that. Surely, we'll try to do everything we can to maintain the same level of protection that we currently are doing, but it would probably be pretty damn hard to do that. One thing I want to make clear, too, from my perspective, is that right now, as we're going forward, other than contractual items, we're within budget. It's just those salaries and other associated costs with those officers that, we didn't budget for. Otherwise, I mean, we're doing our damnedest that we can to have a balanced budget and then provide the level of service that we've been providing. And I think you appreciate that, too.
I know that you guys are doing everything you can, and I know if it wasn't for you and the chief right now, this budget would be way out of hand. So I appreciate you're on top of this every day.
And if it wasn't for the excellent working relationship that we have with the council, as you said, things would be out of control.
Nobody could foresee something drastic happens. We had a shooting, we had, not to rehash a lot of things, but they are being proactive in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And for us to not be proactive and just be reactive, which we did years ago, is only going to, it won't benefit the town. So I know it's a $3.3 million police budget, and which is astronomical for a town of 10,000 people.
Absolutely.
But we just got to figure out, it's a fine line. Do you want to keep doing special details? You still want to be doing drug work? You still want to be doing things that benefit the town? Or do you just want to be a reactive police department where you start reacting, call comes in and we react to it? So there's a lot of things that need to be addressed in the upcoming year or two.
I have one question, too. In the revenues, I was looking for, I saw the reimbursement from the county for drugs, but we have this school safety officer. We get $60,000 reimbursement on that. I didn't see that anywhere, which would help us out again, because we have that coming in again this year to cover our time of the officer when he's in the school and to cover the overtime. I didn't see the revenues.
We don't have it there, Joe. We'll check
Okay,
tomorrow.
thank you. I just noticed that.
Tony?
Is there anything that the police department can, I know there's different levels of certification. If they have a different certification, is there more reimbursements? Does it work that way? Will we get more reimbursements from the county if we're a certified department or whatever the terminology is?
Well, I understand what you're talking about. And to have the certified department, this department would probably cost us close to $1 million just to get to that certification. Because you have to, there's a whole set of standards that you have to meet. And not only do you have to come up with all the standards, all the documents that go to the standards, you have to show over a 6-month period that you're doing all the things. What they say is, do what you say you're going to do, document it, and do it. If you don't do that, you don't get certified. And then every 2 years, it's another $10,000 fee to come back. Ben Salem is one of the few departments that went through the certification.
Does it give us more in reimbursements?
Not really. I think it makes us eligible maybe for some other grants, but because we're such a small department, we wouldn't even attempt to do it.
My other question.
The other thing is that we, because of the excellent working relationship that our chief has established with the other departments and with the county detectives, we are getting a lot more cooperation from the county and from the other police departments in helping us. In turn, we help them, with this opioid crisis and narcotics. We're averaging about 8 overdoses a month and 2, maybe 1 or 2 deaths a month. We're also making a lot of drug arrests if you look at the reports. And as Ralph was saying, all this adds up to more court time, more investigative work, more overtime. And when you're taking that proactive approach to crime, we're fortunate that council has allocated, the number of hours they did for the part-timers, because it really gives us some help in, adding these extra duties on when we do all the festivals and everything else. It allows somebody else to work, on the crime portion and the report portion, all that stuff that's not cool.
If at some point that we have to go down to 12 men, is there going to be a drastic increase in the overtime then, or not?
Could be.
Yeah.
Does that may outweigh, it may not?
I mean, their contract's up in 19.
Right.
So, we still didn't resolve the street and highway contract. We're trying to get that done, and now we're going to be going to a police contract in 19, so.
I know they had talked about going back to the 4-2 schedule.
Right. So there's a lot of things we need to discuss. Louis, what do you have?
I was just wanted to mention that, you go through these budgets, and it was a little less than a year ago that we had the shooter and
Yep.
close the whole town down, had to, have police there to empty the schools out and get kids home safely, and parents in traffic control. So you can't foresee this stuff. Who would think we'd have a snowstorm in November? And, everybody wants the streets plowed, everybody wants to be safe, and it all comes at a cost. And sometimes that cost, we can't, we're not fortune tellers. If we'd be over at parks instead of being in council chambers. So it's really not an easy job, and I thank especially Ralph and Mr. Dillon and Angie for all the work they put in on this thing. And it's a very difficult job.
I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to go to page 7 of 8. Your next big thing is your street and highway. So you can see salaries for the entire borough workforce is $340,000. It's, when you look at the difference in salaries, it's a major difference. And these guys got to keep the streets clean, snow removal, cutting grass. I mean, they do a lot of work in this town, and there's only 6 or 7 of them left on the street and highway department. But what, if you could find, I can't find the pension.
There's
Next,
pension, retirement, employee benefits, Ralph, next, right down.
Right on the same page.
Same page down.
Right before the next first one.
first one.
295, 435,
Right.
295.
So if you look at the proposed 19 budget, it's $435,790. Last year, we spent $295,000. So we're putting in the $295 again for 19, not the $435,790, because we don't know where our interest rates are going to go. If we do as good as we think we're going to do, then that number would not be required for us to put in, as far as the way I'm understanding it. So if you look at jump in 14 from 186,000, 243, 293, 295, 294, 295, and then they sent us an estimate this year for $435,000. So, I mean, I don't think we have any legal obligation to put that in, but again, if you put that in your budget, there's no way to balance it. Anybody got any questions on page 7 of 8?
No.
Page 8 of 8 is the general fund budget. So Jim, why don't you just run through this budget on the last page?
Last page. Right now, we're projecting for this year a deficit at the end of the year of $151,818. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we can decrease that deficit. We're monitoring it every other day. But right now, we're projecting a deficit at the end of the year for 2018 of $151,818. So, standalone for 2019, if you do fund 14 full-time officers and comply with the municipal pension obligation, you're looking at a deficit of $349,000. So therefore, you'd have to proceed with the earned income tax and possibly the local service tax. That's the way the budget is presented, at this time. The last column, if you go with the 12 full-time officers, and that's what the council funded in the 2018 budget, and kept the pension contribution the same that you're contributing in 2018, which is well over $400,000, you would have somewhat of a surplus, estimated surplus at this time, $68,547.
So the reason we decided to show them 2 columns is we want council to know, and I was hoping everybody would be here this evening, to understand that to balance this budget, you have to show 12 full-time officers. Now, maybe our income comes in higher, maybe things do a lot better during the course of the year, things do a lot worse. So this budget really needs to be looked at, monthly or quarterly, even if, any council member is welcome at any time to keep asking the manager or, how's things going. But again, it's a guide. So, we could sit here and say, well, we're going to fund the 14 officers and we're going to raise some of the income and we're going to we're not looking to play games with this. I want to be honest with everybody to let them know that things aren't that great right now in the borough as far as balancing these budgets. And we talked about it, and like Jim said, there's going to be a time that this tax, everybody wants to be politically correct and say, I'm not voting for it. But nobody has a suggestion on how to balance it. Anybody could sit here and say, well, I'm not voting for the local service tax, I'm not voting for this. And that's fine because, that's your opinion. But I've been sitting here for 17 years, and I went through a lot of councilmen that said they don't want to vote for something, but never had a suggestion on how to balance it. So when somebody wants to take this job, I'd be willing to say, okay, let's sit down and you tell me how to do it. So, and I appreciate Louis knowing how hard it is to try to put this puzzle together and look out for the taxpayers at the same time. And there may be a time that you got to start cutting services. I don't know. But as long as I'm here, I like to do the best we can and keep providing a top level of service to the taxpayers. So if the 5 of us here are in agreement tonight that we could advertise this as a balanced budget using the numbers that were in the second column, then I'll have Jim advertise it. There's no reason to have another budget meeting. Because if you sit here and say, well, let's cut out $5,000 to Little League, or let's cut out $2,000, it's like you're in the middle of the ocean, which, is it really going to help you? you're going to lower it by $20,000, $30,000, which, look, it's a lot of money and it helps. But I think that we just go with this budget and we work on it. The state is, pardon me? No. The state is billions and billions of dollars in debt with their pension funds. They couldn't pay them pension funds no matter what happens. So since I have been here, and I think it was in 2004, we have met every pension obligation that this borough was charged. So whatever they said you have to pay, we made sure it was paid. And I'm not saying we're not going to meet this pension obligation. You know, maybe things look good and, you know, transfer fees start coming in, houses are selling. Maybe we do meet the obligation of the pension fund and we stay with the 14 police officers for the, 2019. But like I said in the beginning, there are going to be tough decisions that have to be made. And somebody's going to have to make them. And just to say I'm not voting for something really is frustrating. So there's no motion that needs to be made, Jim, or a
I
motion
think
needs
we
to be
need a
made?
motion to authorize the advertisement of the proposed 2019 budget. The cost for 12 full-time officers, and the pension contribution remaining the same in 19 as it is in 18.
So Louis made the motion, second by Mr. Pezza. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do you need any other motions made, Jim? Just so you know, I know Dave's not here, Lorraine's not here, and Tony's not here. I'm not discussing this budget publicly from tonight on. If they have any questions, Jim's here every day, Angie's here, email them. But we had a budget meeting purposely to talk about the budget. So we're not going to sit here and waste 2 hours and go through every page because somebody couldn't make the meeting. And nobody notified the borough. I mean, Lorraine did, and Dave contacted Tony, and I know what it is to lose a dog because I had to put one down. And I know how difficult it is. But if they have questions regarding this budget, me personally, I'm not going to sit here and open this budget up and talk about it for at least an hour. The five of us came here and sat here. It's 7:30. An hour and a half. We talked about it, and it's up to them to do their job and to contact the manager for any questions they want answered.
I think people have to start realizing too, people that are here hear the numbers, and they're big numbers, but I like to warn everybody about one thing. When it's so hard to raise taxes, it's political suicide. Local level, federal level, wherever it is, if you say you're going to take more people's money, you're probably not going to get reelected, and for some of us it doesn't matter. But to others, I just want to warn people. When somebody says, oh, they raised taxes, but I didn't vote for that, just remember, that's a coward's way out. Because we have a police budget, and every year contractually it goes up. We have the street and maintenance and the clerical workers. Every year it goes up. Anybody who runs a household knows every year insurance goes up, your utilities go up. It's the same thing here at the Borough Hall. We pay more money every year for our electric, and everybody wants more service, and they think that it's like manna from heaven. Well, it's not. It's a lot of hard decisions to get to it. So when that guy knocks on your door and says, I didn't raise your taxes, he just didn't have the guts to tell you he raised them, because he knew that there would be 5 people that are going to raise them. So I just want to and that's across the board. That's not just here in Bristol. Even somebody at the state level, or, if you want services, you have to pay for it. And we have to pay more every year. So keep that in mind, and it's not an easy thing to do. Everybody who runs a household knows it gets more difficult every year. So, and I want to thank the team that put this budget together.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody in the public public have any questions tonight before we adjourn? Got a lot of new faces, I'm glad.
They're my students.
They're your students,
They are,
huh?
yes.
So you can ask him tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll
Oh, that's why you
I'll
spoke so
take
much
care of it.
tonight?
Nobody gets an A. Come and see me.
I thought we were all reporters, the way you're running them down.
All right, I get a motion to adjourn. Motion by Tony, second by Louis.